Would you like an insight on the thought process on how to create art that you can repurpose for other uses? In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to do that by thinking bigger picture when you're creating your art. Hi, I'm Kimber Shook. I'm a Skillshare teacher, a Procreate artist, as well as a crochet designer. And I love creating in Procreate as well as repurposing my art. My time as well as your time is valuable, and why not use the most of it by repurposing something that you've already created? I want to admit that I started drawing and creating art for my mental health rather than using it for extra income. Really focusing on skills that I wanted to learn, I really discovered a passion in creating things as well as sharing it with others. First, I like to think of different themes. And when I mention themes, I'm talking about stuff that kind of correlates with each other. Whether it's a holiday theme, or it's an occasion stamp, or it's an event, or it's a particular hobby. I kind of like to wrap that all up by thinking through what I feel like creating at that time. And I was really inspired and motivated to create this fall and autumn set, which later will be turned into repeat design for my Society 6 shop. It started out a little too simplified, but I love adding extra details into my art. I did spend some time on it, so I spent about an hour and a half creating this sketch. And you can see here, it is not a very good sketch, but I just wanted to get my ideas down so I can visually see what I'm trying to achieve. And I didn't start out thinking stamp set in the beginning of my sketch here, but once I really got into it, I thought it would be a great repurpose tool for my art. With my time, I did spend about 3.5 hours researching, drawing out my sketches, and trying to figure out what style, what details I want to add to each of these elements that I want to use for that sketched out scene, but also that can be repurposed into Procreate stamps. After I created my sketches, I needed to really fine-tune my designs. It did take me a little bit longer to really finesse and draw out a more detailed and more neater image of the elements that I wanted to use. This includes my sketch, so you got to figure over 3.5 hours was my sketch time. So I spent about 4 hours creating more detailed images of this art. In the process of really finessing my sketches into more finalized images, I did record my process. So this way I can repurpose my process into Reels, into TikTok, into other social media sites, into YouTube videos. I try and do that so that way my time is being used for more than one purpose. So after I created my images, I kind of did one at a time, and I kind of placed it over in my overall sketch because I want to use this sketch now not only to showcase my stamps, but also to break it up and use it for Instagram posts. I want to use it for marketing purposes for these stamps. I also want to be able to use this exact artwork or similar artwork for other purposes like art prints, or taking certain elements of this and using it for other pieces of art. That's what's great about creating in Procreate, which is a digital app. There's other digital drawing apps out there that have the same purpose. I start with a theme, I break it down and create a list of theme-inspired elements. And I do that like I did here. I kind of break it out. And there's no rhyme or reason on what I chose. It's just something that came to me. It's also, there's no rhyme or reason on how many and how little you want to use, how much detail, how much not detail you want to add. Then I go and find inspirational reference images, whether it's on Pinterest, it's on Google Images, It's on the commercial use sites like Unsplash, Pexels, Pixabay. Then I do start to sketch it out. I do try to even take the time for a class or watch a YouTube tutorial. Not only is that inspirational, but I usually discover and learn a new skill that I can incorporate into my own art. Then I do start to sketch. I also love to be able to sketch out a scene like I did previously to really get inspired and use as many of those elements that I plan on creating inside this scene. And sometimes it's vice versa. Sometimes I actually add something to this piece of art and decide to add it to my list and create a stamp out of it. After you're done with your sketching, you do need to refine your elements. And by doing that, you really try to hone in on more of the details, more solid lines. Then you can create your Procreate stamps. So that's when you start adding them to your album. If you don't know how to create a stamp set, that's okay. I will be showing you how to do that in another tutorial here on YouTube, so make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get notified. I like to use my Procreate stamps to double check. So that's another reason why I really found that sketching out a scene and using those themed elements, it's another great way to double check my work, make sure that those stamps work properly, as well as show up the way they should show up in an actual piece of art. I have started recording this process so that way it can be used for multiple purposes, social media, for more tutorials. It's also great to be able to think, if I'm doing this, what else can I be doing with this as another repurpose tool? Next, we'll have to create marketing images. So whether you're selling them in your own shop or you're selling it online like Creative Market, you do need marketing images in order to promote and display those stamps. I would also suggest creating mock-ups, and by creating mock-ups, this is where you take what you created and add it into an everyday life image. Let me show you some mock-ups that I created. So I do have a Skillshare class on how to create mock-ups using Procreate. If you're interested, there'll be a link noted below. So here's an example of a mock-up. This is an actual illustration that I created in Procreate to display a tiger print pattern, as well as some artwork for my mug, for the wall art. We also have real life mock-ups where we take an image and we add our art to that image so someone can actually see it as if it was a real piece of art, like this tote bag. If you're interested in creating a mock-up for this particular tote bag, I created a tutorial here on YouTube. Make sure you check out the link. I'll have it loaded below. But just by creating some mock-ups, it allows the end user to visualize seeing your art in an everyday image. But keep in mind, it doesn't have to be real life like I did here in this image. This was all illustrated. So that's just something for you to keep in mind. After you created all this, you can start to sell your Procreate stamps as well as repurpose them. That is where you'll be reusing your stamps in creating repeat patterns. You can create clip art to sell. You can create greeting cards. There's so many different things that you can use and create once you've already done the work. Sometimes it's just a little tweaking. It's some added additional time to repurpose it and use it for another style. So for example, you can take this particular drawing, that's an image that you created, and it's an image that you can repurpose, not only to put it in different things like repeat patterns, greeting cards, artwork, stamps. You can use it for clip art, but you can create it using different Procreate brushes to give it an entirely different look, as well as changing the color on it to give you multiple pieces. This is just how my thought process works. And obviously it's a little overwhelming. I do tend to think of the bigger picture sometimes, but focus on the small pieces. And if I run out of time, I run out of time. But I hope that this video is giving you ideas on where to start. And like here, this is my thought process on what images that I can probably put together to create a repeat pattern. I haven't done that yet because I'm still in the process of creating my stamps, but that is another end result that once I have my images created, I can start doing that as well. So that's in the back of my mind and also on my to-do list. So that way I can also repurpose it on several other shops that I have available. Here's where I cropped that large canvas and I turned it into 6 individual 1000 pixels by 1000 pixels images so I can share it to my social media. So I know I gave you a lot of information on the steps that I use when I create my thought process on how I can repurpose my art. Here's just a few ideas that you can keep in mind when you repurpose your art. Thank you so much for watching, and make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can get notified of my next video.